The number 8 stood alone at the top of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, scoring pylon on Friday morning. Not because Kyle Busch had set a fast lap, not because he had won a race, but because the track staff had placed it there as a tribute, with his number in first position, the only position that ever truly suited him. 95,000 people came to the Coca Cola 600 on Sunday, knowing Kyle Busch would not be there. They came anyway. They filled the grandstands at one of NASCAR's most celebrated races on Memorial Day weekend. They wore his colors. They carried his number. They watched a race that felt like something more than a race. And when Daniel Suarez crossed the finish line to win a rain-shortened contest, choked back tears in victory lane, and dedicated the victory to the man who had mentored him, the 95,000 people watching understood exactly what they had just witnessed. Not a race, a memorial service. For the most prolific winner in the history of NASCAR's 3 national series, for Kyle Busch, who was 41 years old, who was preparing for this race when his body gave out, and who left the sport and the people who loved and hated him in equal measure, completely unable to imagine what comes next without him. Start with the latest confirmed facts, because the story has developed significantly since Thursday's announcement. The Busch family released their official statement on Saturday morning. The medical evaluation provided to the Busch family concluded that severe pneumonia progressed into sepsis, resulting in rapid and overwhelming associated complications. The family asks for continued understanding and privacy during this difficult time. That statement is the family's final public word on the cause of death. Severe pneumonia into sepsis. The same illness that Kyle Busch had been managing through the weeks leading into the Coca Cola 600 weekend. The same illness he told his crew about at Watkins Glen when he asked for a doctor after the race. The same illness that was still manageable enough for him to win a Truck Series race on May 15th and compete at the All-Star race at Dover on May 17th. And then, 4 days after Dover, it was no longer manageable at all. Richard Childress Racing announced on Friday that the team would retire the number 8 for the remainder of the 2026 season in Busch's honor. That decision, made within 24 hours of his death, reflects the scale of what the team has lost. The number 8 car will not race again in 2026. No replacement driver will be named. The seat stays empty as a tribute to the man who sat in it. Charlotte Motor Speedway opened its doors on Friday to what would, under normal circumstances, be one of its most celebrated weekends of the year. The scoring pylon going dark, except for the number 8 in first position, was one of the most quietly devastating images any NASCAR fan has seen. Kyle Busch was always in first position. That was where he belonged. That was where he put himself, over and over again, across 2 decades and 63 Cup Series victories. Seeing the number 8 alone at the top of the tower, in a slot he could no longer earn himself, told the entire story in a single image. The race weekend itself became something the Coca Cola 600 has never been before. The race has always carried a strong element of remembrance given its Memorial Day weekend tradition. In 2026, the NASCAR community was still absorbing the fact that one of its own was part of the mourning. The memorial elements, the black number 8 on the infield grass, the messages on the finish line, the photographs of the fallen champion, all of them made the event feel like a mass catharsis rather than a motorsport competition. 95,000 people came together not just to watch a race, but to grieve collectively. Kurt Busch, Kyle's older brother and a NASCAR Hall of Famer in his own right, laid white roses on the number 8, stenciled on the infield grass during a remembrance ceremony before the race. That image, of one Busch brother paying tribute to another at the track where they competed for years, captured the personal dimension of the loss beneath the wider sporting tragedy. The Busch family's connection to NASCAR goes back to the earliest years of Kyle's career, when Kurt was already an established champion. The 2 brothers raced against each other, argued with each other, competed fiercely, and loved each other. Kurt placing those white roses is a moment that will stay in the memory of everyone who saw it. The race itself was chaotic in the way that Coca Cola 600s sometimes are, with 12 caution flags over nearly 5 hours of racing. The rain that had been threatening all weekend arrived late, shortening the contest. And when the checkered flag flew, the driver in victory lane was Daniel Suarez. The Trackhouse racing driver had one of the deepest personal bonds with Kyle Busch in the current Cup Series field. Suarez has spoken publicly about what Busch meant to his career development. Winning the Coca Cola 600 on the weekend the sport was mourning. Busch was the kind of sporting narrative that even the most accomplished fiction writer would struggle to construct. Suarez choked back tears in victory lane. Fellow drivers came to congratulate him, knowing the weight of the moment. "The very first thing that came to my mind was Kyle," Suarez told reporters after the race. "We all know this has been a difficult week and weekend for all of us, drivers, teams, fans. For me, he was someone very special. This one is for him." That dedication, delivered with genuine emotion from a driver who had just won one of NASCAR's most important races, was the sporting farewell that the Coca Cola 600 became. The broader NASCAR community's reaction to Busch's death has been one of the most sustained and genuinely felt tributes the sport has produced in decades. Every team, every driver, every track operator, every media organization, all of them found their own way to acknowledge what had been lost. The tributes ranged from simple social media messages to elaborate in-person gestures at the Charlotte facility. The complexity of the tribute reflects the complexity of the man being remembered. Kyle Busch was not universally loved in his career. He was brash. He was unapologetic. He leaned into the role of NASCAR's ruling class villain with swagger and humor. He gave fans reason to love him and reason to hate him in roughly equal measure. The outpouring of tribute after his death suggests that whatever they felt in the moment, the overwhelming sentiment across the NASCAR world is grief. Brad Keselowski's words after the death were some of the most honest and uncomfortable of the tribute period. He confirmed that he had known Busch was not feeling well in the weeks before his death. He described how seeing Busch win the Truck Series race on May 15th had erased his earlier concerns. And then he said something that the sport will need to sit with. "There's no shortage of drivers that would love to take my seat or anybody else's seat if we weren't feeling well. And I think every driver feels that pressure." That is a senior active NASCAR driver publicly identifying the cultural pressure not to miss races, not to show weakness, not to give a team any reason to question whether you are the right person in the seat. Whether that pressure contributed to Kyle Busch continuing to race while seriously ill with pneumonia is not something anyone can state with certainty. But Keselowski named the pressure honestly, and the sport deserves to think carefully about it. The Busch family has asked for continued understanding and privacy. The sport will give them that. But it will also carry the weight of what happened for a very long time. Kyle Busch was irreplaceable, in the sense that every truly original competitor is irreplaceable. He did what he did in a way that nobody else has replicated, and nobody else could replicate. The number 8 sits alone at the top of a scoring pylon. A memorial in the shape of a starting position. Exactly where he would have wanted to be. Rest in peace, Kyle Busch. Two-time champion. 234 wins. One of a kind. And gone far too soon. Share your memories of Kyle Busch in the comments. Tell us your favorite race, your favorite moment, the victory that made you love him or the burnout that made you furious. And if you want to keep following the sport that he gave so much of himself to, subscribe and we will catch you in the next one.